Everybody, this is Mayor Cornell Harvey. Welcome to our City Council meeting this evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Brunswick City Commission meeting dated Wednesday, June 3rd, via teleconference, via Zoom. We will have our invocation by our Commissioner Felicia Harris will give our invocation. Then we will, all of us will cite the Pledge of Allegiance together. Commissioner?
Please. Most heavenly and most gracious Father, Spirit of the one true and living God, Lord, we thank you yet for this opportunity to come together and commune. We ask, God, that you will govern our thoughts, govern our actions, govern the decisions that shall be made in the best interest of the city of Brunswick and our citizens on tonight, God. We ask now, God, that as we go through this process in places and in positions that we've never been in before, God, we ask now, God, for the protection over not just our city of Brunswick, but for the county of Glen, God. We ask now, God, that you protect our citizens, Father God. Keep us from all danger, seen and unseen, God. We ask now, God, that you will govern the proceedings. And we ask now, God, that you will allow justice to prevail, God. We thank you now, God, that you have continued to watch over us, even during this pandemic, Father God. And we pray now, God, and trust that you will continue to take us through whatever it is that is to come before us, God. We thank you now for your grace and your mercy that precedes us. And God, we thank you now that you will continue to give us the mind to govern and to lead. We pray this prayer in your most holy and precious name. We say, amen.
Amen. I will lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the United States
of America,
and to the republic
which
which
stands
one nation under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and justice
liberty and
for all.
justice for all.
I forgot there is a delay, and when you listen to it, it really messes things up. I forgot about that. However, as we move right along, there are some additions to our agenda. One addition is, Jesus Christ. Hold on a second, everybody. This addition is, we're going to add to item number 3A on the items to be considered for approval. Consider approval of the Georgia Department of Transportation Transit Supplemental Agreement. Can I get a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Probably motion second to add on the item 3A, consider for approval of a Georgia Department of Transportation Transit Supplemental Agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, and any opposed? It seems like the ayes have it. Okay, also, we'd like to add to our agenda on the item, the city attorney item for 7A, to discuss, consider approval of the draft of a mutual aid agreement between the city, Glen County, and the Glen County Sheriff Department. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second for consider the draft of a mutual aid agreement between the city, Glen County, and the Sheriff Department. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed at the same right? It seems like the ayes have it. Okay, add that as item 7A. All right, as we move right along with our scheduled printed agenda, item number 1, consider for approval of the May 20th, 2020 regular scheduled meeting minutes. It was printed in our agenda, in our booklet, and if there are no additions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
It's been probably motion second that for the approval of our minutes dated May the 20th, 2020. No, 2020, excuse me. Are there any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposers have the same right. It seems like the ayes have it. Therefore, those minutes are approved. Item number 2, consider approval of the financial report as of April 31st, 2020. Ms. Catherine Mills, our finance director, will be presenting.
Okay, you have before you your report for April 30th. We're at 83.33% through with the year. You'll see for the month we had expenditures over revenues of $391,000, but year to date we are at $2,112,000 over revenues over expenditures. There's a cash balance of $6 million, the majority of which is held at Georgia Fund 1. On the loss distributions, you'll see for the month of April, we were down 7.9% from the previous April, but year to date, we have an increase of 4.08%. Title ad valorem, you'll see year to date there, we have a decrease of 51.57%. And we will see some further decreases in our local option sales tax. We've already gotten the May number, and I think it was down 27%, but we were expecting that. Second page is the SPLOST 6 fund, cash balance $7.1 million. You'll see there on the left the total project budget and then how much we have spent and collected since the inception of SPLOST 6, which will end September 30th of 2020. The three right-hand columns will show what we budgeted for June of this year through June of this year, our expenditures so far, and then the balance. We did have some significant expenditures during the month of April. We spent $90,000 on the fire station addition, $87,000 on the streets, $92,000 on trails, and $42,000 on ditches and drains. So we're starting to see that money go out. I do think we are still on progress for being able to collect the entire amount that was budgeted to come in from SPLOST 6, even though we will expect that to drop in the next few months. The next page is SPLOST 5. There we have a balance of $1.4 million in the cash accounts. We did pay out a bill to Gunmeyer, Hoff and Shea in the month of April for $34,000. We have billed Glenn County for their half of that, which we should be getting in this month. Norwich Street Commons, there's been no activity in Norwich Street Commons other than it's been still earning interest. We have a cash balance of $335,000 in that fund. The Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center, we have inflows of $264,000, outflows of $276,000. There's currently a cash balance of $17,000. The main thing to note there is the transfer from the general fund is still within the budgeted amount for the year. We have transferred over $85,000 year to date to subsidize the Roosevelt Harris Center. Excuse me. The next page is the sanitation fund. You'll see we have total revenues of $2.8 million, total expenditures of a little over $2 million for a net of $742,000. There's cash balance on hand of $699,000. I want to point out again, that's not income really, although it says operating income loss, that money is still set aside for making the monthly payments for trash pickup every month. Trash pickup, the monthly bill was $123,000. It stays roughly about the same every month, so there's no surprises in that number. The stormwater utility fund has a net of $353,000. There is cash in the checking account and the Georgia Fund account of $347,000 there. The additional information for the month of April, there was only one expenditure out, and that was for the Recreation Department equipment account for $12,567. That was for some Hurricane Irma expense, some damage to speakers that were repaired. So that's not really an expense for the city, that was reimbursed. The last page is the Roosevelt Lawrence Center. If you're going down to the bottom of the page, you'll see for the month of, I should say April, I'm sorry. The month of April, that should have, it's $7,971. Those expenses have sort of dried up a little bit. There's just the normal everyday ones since that was not in operation during the month. But we obviously still have to pay the salaries and the utilities for that center. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
Any questions for our finance director on the budget?
I've got a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. One, I wanted to find out on the street sweeper
Yes.
and those fees that we pay for dumping or taking it to someone else and they dumping it for us. I want to find out, did we ever find out anything about that?
Mr. Alverson and I have discussed that. I have not gotten a final answer on that yet, but I will make myself a note on that, Commissioner Williams, and see what, I mean, that's, I guess, up to them to find out, you know, what the alternatives are, where else we could dump that. But I will check with him and see, and I'll have you an answer.
Okay, thank you. And the second one is under the Roosevelt Lawrence Center. Why is the utilities electrical so high?
Well, that's what it runs a month. I guess that building is older and fairly big. I can look at the history on it and see what it is each month, but you'll see over there in the year-to-date amount, it's, you know, it appears to be running about that much each month.
But is it not closed?
Well, I think they still keep it, I think they're still keeping the utilities on. I'll check with them and see what, if they can cut that out or cut it down, or it's probably, let's see, this is for the month of April. So we're probably paying it in arrears. So probably it was occupied during most of March. I think the close down came like mid-March maybe. So that may be because there was but I'll check and see if they're running that, you know, if they're still using the same amount, or if there's anything that could be turned off or shut down.
Yeah, it'd be good to find out exactly what the average is too,
Okay.
because it may be time to do an assessment and also talk with Georgia Power, especially if it's a power bill. That's the question, and since we can probably negotiate something with Georgia Power too as well.
Okay, I will check on that and let
Something
you
to make
know.
it lower.
Okay.
It may be lower percentage lighting or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll check and see what we can do with that. And I'll talk to Ms. Matt Collins too, because that's under her. So she probably knows a little bit more about how that building is set up than I do. So I'll see what we can find out and what it runs on an average, high and low during a month.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay,
Any
I'll check
further
those.
questions? Kathy, I got one question about, you said we are about 50-some% down with our
Alarm.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, sir. You know, that we've done some further looking on that, and Tanette also has been involved in that, and the city manager, and that's, I actually got a report from GMA to show us exactly what was coming in that the county was getting and the
Right.
split. We went back and looked at the new law, and unfortunately, that's how it shakes down for the city right now. There is a bill out there, to my understanding, on the floor to get us some more money, but I don't know that I don't think we're ever going to be back to where we were, because apparently they're doing it by where the dealers are located. So it's not like we're getting a whole amount of the pie of what's sold in Glenn County. The county came out much better than we did. And so did the Board of Ed, actually. But
Yes.
I'll be happy to send y'all that spreadsheet, because it shows by month what's coming in and what we're getting based on the law that changed at the beginning of July last year.
I heard that they're trying to repeal that law and go back to the way it was. So hopefully, I think it would be good for us to you know, speak with our delegation and let them know that we're for them moving that back to where it was.
I know Ms.
Yeah,
McDuffie.
that seems rather antiquated because most of the car dealerships have moved out of cities. It's there's not enough space, and the land is more appropriate for other activities than it is for car dealerships. So I just feel like cities and municipalities are being penalized because of that. So
From what they told me at GMA, the gentleman that I'm talking to there who's keeping all these reports on it, because they had asked us back at the very beginning of July to keep them informed and to send them spreadsheets that showed what we were collecting. And we've been doing that. And he told me we were hit particularly hard, more so than most of the other cities. But the last I had heard, Commissioner Williams, that was that the bill that was out there was to change the percentage, which would give us a little more. But if they would go back to what it was originally, that would certainly be much better for us. The gentleman from GMA said when it was all first set up, they really didn't have an idea of how it was going to impact. And after they did it, they realized that the cities were bearing the brunt of it.
yeah, I spoke with the same guy at GMA, and yeah, I did send him some additional information or information that Kathy had sent. And I also reached out to Senator Liggins, Representative Jones, and to Senator Ed Harbison, who is a friend of mine who is on the Rules Committee. That bill, it's House Bill 779. And I don't know whether it changes it back to where it was or just change the percentage, but that bill did make it out of the House and out of the Senate committee, but now it needs to go to the Senate floor in order for it to be passed during the session once they reconvene this month. So I have asked Senator Harbison, since he's on the Rules Committee, to try and push that, and I will call him a couple of more times and remind him to make an effort for me on that.
Well, I sit on the Legislative Policy Council for GMA, and you're right, Kathy, and Ms. McDuffie, you're correct that the distribution, the percentage now is not going to go back to where it was. It's going to be different. We will get a little more revenue than we get now since they had passed this bill last year. However, I will talk with Senator Liggins as well to see about getting that passed through the Senate as well. And GMA stands behind this bill to try to get some relief for cities. So we will monitor that as we go forward, realizing that this has really affected us in a huge way. And I was going to ask you, City Manager, how does that affect us going forward if we lose most of that revenue? How does that affect us?
Well, it's going to hit our bottom line. Thankfully, we are operating right now where we will, continue to hopefully not overspend our annual revenues, but we are bracing for, some losses next year. But it is going to, hit the bottom line. If you see the spreadsheets that Kathy sent out, the county got a good windfall from it, and the school board. I mean, Kathy was being modest saying they got a little more. They got a lot more.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept the finance report as presented.
Second.
If it probably motion second for the acceptance approval of the finance report as presented for April 31st, 2020. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ms. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Kasem, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Harvey, how do you vote?
Yes, and seeing that motion carries unanimously. Thank you so very much, everybody. We're moving right along. We'll move to our item number 3. Consider approval of right of entry license agreement between the City of Brunswick and Gallagher Marine Systems, LLC for utilization of the boat dock at Liberty Ship Park. Mr. Garrett Everson is presenting maybe. Is he here? Is he on board?
He's on. I think he's still trying to join audio. I'll defer to the city manager though.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, Garrow he has a problem. He texted that he couldn't get on. He and I and Brian went through the agreement and made some, I think, some significant changes to try and make it more of what the commissioners had directed. Under the license fee, we, instead of the 25,000 that they had in there, we are actually asking for 45,000 for the deck, for the dock and boat ramp, and then a 55,000 use of the parking and storage areas. And I had asked that those storage and parking areas be outlined so that, it would limit where the footprint that they have. In addition, instead of the $2,100 a month after September 2020, we're asking for $3,750 per month on a monthly basis of payment if they go past the September 2020 date that they said they would be completed. Also, under the use of improvements, we tried to expand that. We did add the parking facilities to that, and basically outline, again, trying to give them areas that they can use in that parking area for storage. The agreement has gone, I think, to Gallagher, and we're waiting for a response. And so we were going to ask that this item be deferred until the next meeting for approval. Brian, you have anything?
I agree with everything Ms. McDuffie said. We also added language limiting the use of the improvements, meaning how the improvements were going to be used, and prohibiting heavy industrial use at the park, whether it be in the storage area or on the docks and boat ramp. And I think Garrow has sent the agreement over to Gallagher, and as the city manager stated, we're just waiting to get a response. And there may be a couple more iterations back and forth, but it's just not ready to be voted on tonight.
I don't know if you can hear me. I did send it over to Gallagher.
Okay.
Okay.
I did send it over this afternoon to Gallagher, but I have not gotten any comments back from them yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I make one request that when, as this gets to a final point of agreement, that we be provided some sort of a map or a schematic drawing of what areas they will be permitted to have use of, so that we know what is currently open to the public and what is more or less restricted to Gallagher.
Yes, I think we can get that together.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Thank you. And any further questions? Seems like we're gonna defer this. This item is not ready for approval right now. So, any further discussion before I ask for a motion?
No, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we defer this item to the next commission meeting in June, or what's the time frame?
Did I give you enough time, Garrow, you think?
Yes, sir. I think Gallagher's interested in moving it forward also. So yes, I think June 17th will be fine.
How do they sound, Garrow?
How do they sound, did you say?
When you told them that we wanted to revise this thing.
They're agreeable to that. I think they're agreeable to an offer larger than what we originally started with. I expect them to counteroffer the number that Ms. McDuffie mentioned. I feel like we'll get a counteroffer from them, but I'm not sure where that might be. But I think they're willing to work with us and work with us on the use down there.
Well, I sure like those numbers. They're a lot better than what we were looking at before.
Mayor, I'd like to second.
Good day's work.
I'd like to second Mayor Pro Tem's motion that she has on the floor.
Okay. Motion second to defer this item to our June 17 meeting. Further discussion or comments? Thank you, Commissioner Casey, for your comment. Very timely. Any further comments? If not, Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Kasem, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Harvey?
Yes, that motion carries unanimously. So that item will be deferred and come back to us on June the 17th, our next meeting. All right. Thank you so much. Our next item is item number 4. Our city engineer, Garo Albertson, will give us an update on the L Street project.
Mayor,
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
Ma'am. Yeah, I'm here.
3A.
Oh, I'm sorry. I tell you what, we will, Gary, you go ahead and do that. I'll go back to 3A. That's what I do. I'll go ahead and do it, Gary. You go do your thing.
All right. I was going to say we're moving forward with the project. We have completed some of the paving on phase 1. We've got the base asphalt layer down now, so that phase 1 is usable. We've still got the traffic control up right now for safety. We have another layer of asphalt to go down and some striping to go on it before we completely open that up to traffic. That should happen early next week and get that phase 1 open to traffic. In the meantime, we're moving forward with phase 2 and waterline construction, moving down towards east of Goodyear, towards the Edo Miller Ball Field and the Pinova entrance down in that direction. So that's moving forward on that waterline construction. We'll be talking with Pinova here in the next few days, coordinating with them as we get closer to their entrance and how they might be affected and everything. So project is moving along. We've lost a few days here the last couple of weeks with the rains. All this rain, it's hard to pave when it's raining, but still moving along at a steady pace.
Are you saying that it's going to be opened up to that point from MLK to a certain point?
Yes, sir. We have one more lift of asphalt down. We probably got about 2 days of paving to go, and some striping. We need to get the striping on it and get our signage back up. But all of that should take place next week, and then that from MLK to Tillman, through Tillman, will be open to traffic.
Okay. All right. Well, we will be monitoring and looking for that to happen very quickly, as you say. I think people are really waiting on that.
Yes, sir. It's going to be nice when it gets done too. It'll be
Any other
much
comments,
improved.
commissioners?
I'm just happy that we're back on schedule, and hopefully we can get this done and get that street back open so that the citizens will have that thoroughfare to access their homes and so forth.
Yeah, it's been over a year. It surely has been over a year.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
I
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I skipped over 3A, so we'll go back to 3A for item to consider for approval. Consider for approval of Georgia Department of Transportation Transit Supplemental Agreement. Mr. John Hunter, our director, is presenting.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize for this coming in last minute. We were notified Friday that this may be coming down the pipe this week, and we were expecting it later in the week, but it came in yesterday. As y'all are aware, in 2019, you directed staff to start pursuing transit funding, federal transit funding via GDOT to begin the process to stand up a small urban transit system for the city. In last November, the City Commission approved an agreement with GDOT to accept FY20 funds in the amount of $755,811 to begin the planning process and purchase the first round of equipment. That required a local match. of $83,979. And then in January, we applied for FY21 funds that would support operations once things got up and going. And there was that match was at a higher ratio because they don't support operations at the same level that they do the actual startup and maintenance and equipment costs. And in April, late April, we were notified that the FY21 application was approved and that the CARES Act would fund 100% of the FY21 request, which came out to $866,780. And additionally, the CARES Fund was going to retroactively pay for all of the FY20 program, which eliminated the need for the $83,979 local match. All told, we'll be getting transit funding from GDOT for those two cycles at just over $1.7 million with no matching requirements. That's going to be very beneficial for allowing us to move forward and getting the system set up. And but unfortunately, GDOT had a very quick turnaround in their expectation to be able to execute these agreements, which is why we put it before you tonight. We received it yesterday, and it has to be returned prior to June 15th. The agreement is attached. I forwarded it to Brian Corey yesterday, and he and I had a discussion about it this morning. And I can let Brian discuss any notes that he'd like to say about that. But it's good news that we're going to get more money than we anticipated from the federal government as we get this program to go.
Thank you. Questions? Brian, you got something to fill in?
I just I took some time today to look it over, and then John and I had a quick phone conference since it was kind of a fast turnaround to get the document on the agenda. It's good news for the city in that we don't have to match funds, and there's quite a bit more in funding available. It's just that we need to monitor and make sure that the funding is spent. In a very strange turn, the agreement actually, if the funding is not spent, it places the burden on the Department of Transportation to reimburse any costs that were born out of trying to get this program off the ground. So I think what it does is encourages the Department of Transportation to work with the local sponsors to make sure the money is spent in a manner that would, promote and further the transportation project. So everything looked good to me.
Okay. Comments, Commissioner? Go ahead, Julie.
I have a question. Is the city working closely enough with BATS, the RSNH group, as well as GDOT on these deadlines and what has to be submitted when? Because I know it's there's a lot of work involved, and there's deadlines and certain hoops you have to jump through, and I'm just concerned about these quick deadlines if we're not being fed the proper information in a timely manner.
So obviously we're having to back up and punt a little bit through this whole process. As you're aware of, we kind of got into the funding late in the game to begin with, and through staff transitions, transit landed my lap after the first of the year, and I had not been part of any of the training that had taken place back in the fall. But I've been in close communication with Mark. His last name just escaped me. Our main contact with GDOT on this program. In fact, he and I had a very long conference call on Friday about where we are in the process and what our next steps are. We did put out an RFP that came in about the 1st of May for selecting our consultant to help us do the route planning and begin the real transit services for us. I'm hoping to have that, been working with GDOT and reviewing that. Garrow's also reviewed it with me. So we're hoping to have that potentially at the next meeting, but more than likely it'll be at the 1st July commission meeting for y'all to weigh in on. So we'll have a consultant in place to get us moving forward through this process more rapidly. The whole point of that consultant is to have someone to do exactly what you're saying. They're the team that's going to help us meet all the deadlines, follow all the reporting requirements. This is going to be a really intensive program that's really going to ramp up very quickly. So the other side of that is no, I have not been in touch with RSNH. They're not a part of this process.
Right.
So at some point I probably do need to get with Rachel and probably also with Pam over the county and update them with where we are. But we're not utilizing RSNH's services, and BATS doesn't fully participate in this aspect of what's going on.
Okay, so I guess, my question is, are we seeking consultants or other avenues of assistance that we would be prudent to seek going through this process?
That was the purpose of the RFP for transportation planning services. Yes.
Okay.
John, will that give us a business plan and a budget to some numbers to look at?
Yes, sir. It'll give us the whole kit and caboodle, the operating budget. What are we going to need in terms of maintenance facilities? How many buses are we going to need? Where are the bus stops going to be? What's expected ridership? What do we need to charge? Really, the whole missing component of, we know we need a transit system. We know that we have the local need for it. It's going to fill in all those blanks.
I think it's time too that we get a start date. It'll be a movable date, I'm sure, but we need a target, something to start looking at.
I think once we've got the consultants on board, we'll be able to establish that and start working toward those dates.
Good, thank you.
Okay, any further comments? And this is for the approval of the Georgia Department of Transportation Transit Supplemental Agreement. No further questions? Entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve as presented for the Georgia Department. What is that? The name.
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
As you said, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. It's been properly motion by Commissioner Williams, second by Mayor Pro Tem Martin, for the approval of the Georgia Department of Transportation Transit Supplemental Agreement. Are there any further questions? Any further questions?
You know, I just want to say that this is really good news that we're getting money that's on top of this, and we're not going to have to do a match. But what we need to remember is the federal government is real good in getting a municipal government involved in something and then just sort of pulling the plug, do it a little by little. So we need to be sure that we're capable of carrying this thing on. And that's why we need to see a good, solid plan pretty quick.
Well, I think with the new staff we have now and the more efficient government we are going now, communication, I think we'll be able to sustain us throughout. I think good planning, as you say, operational wise, that we'll be able to sustain that. I got faith in the system.
And I'll throw in one more thing. We had a bus yard at one time over on Altama.
Yes.
It's gone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another one. We need one.
Thank you.
We also had a bus yard that we're getting ready to build some senior housing there too as well. So we was using that for hurricane debris that we have to find some other place to do that too. So really, in essence, progress causes things to be better sometime, and it also causes us to make changes as well. So we are aware of that.
Well, we've still got 503 Mansfield Street too,
Yes, sir. We sure do. You're right.
So that's in a pretty strategic location.
Any further comments, commissioners? Okay, been probably motion second, as I said before. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Kasem, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes. It seems that motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Hunter, for that presentation, and also our city attorney as well. So we're moving right along. Now our items, we get down to item number 5 for appointments, authority and boards. We have a appointment to the Housing Authority. That's one appointment, and that is the mayor's appointment. And that is to appointment to the Housing Authority to fill the expired term of Mr. Floyd Phoenix. His term just ended 5/31/2020. The name that's being submitted for consideration for appointment is Ms. Pamela A. Bailey. I had an opportunity to interview about 5 people for that position, and I've selected Ms. Bailey. And I didn't realize too, Ms. Bailey has taken all the necessary courses online to be a housing authority representative commissioner, so to speak. And so I was very happy to hear that. And Ms. Bailey has been one who she comes to a lot of our meetings, get involved. She gives our invocation quite a bit as well. Looking at her resume, as you see it in our folder, I think she would do a pretty good job for the Housing Authority. I've also talked with the chairman, and he's looking forward to Ms. Bailey working with him as well. He welcomes that appointment as well. So, without further ado, I appoint Ms. Pamela Bailey as the next to fill the expired term of Mr. Floyd Phoenix for the Brunswick Housing Authority. All right, item number 2, Brunswick Historic Preservation Board. We have 3 appointments. Appointment to fill the expiring terms of Ms. Hetty Bernstein. Her term ends 6/30/20. Mr. Bob Carpenter, his term ends 6/30/20 as well. And Ms. Dolores Polite, her term ends 6/30/20. It seems that everyone other than Mr. Carpenter is applying to be reappointed. So, commissioners, as you look at who are submitted their names for appointment, Ms. Hetty Bernstein wants to be reappointed. Ms. Dolores Polite would like to be reappointed, and Mr. Charles W. Day would like to be appointed to fill Mr. Bob Carpenter's position. Comments?
I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the 3 names, Ms. Bernstein, Mr. Day, and Ms. Polite for the Brunswick Historic Preservation Board.
I'll second.
Okay, been properly motion second for the 3 names submitted to this council: Hetty Bernstein, Mr. Charles Day, and Ms. Dolores Polite, to be considered for appointment to the Brunswick Historic Preservation Board. Are there any further questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll, please, for me.
Commissioner Kasem, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes. And seeing that motion carries unanimously too. Thank you so much. So, Madam Clerk, please contact the individual, let them know for the 2 that have been reappointed, and also Mr. Day for his appointment to this board.
Will do.
All right. Item number 3, 5, that's 3. The tree board, 1 appointment, and this is for appointment to the tree board to fill the unexpired term of Ms. Joanna Lee. Her term ends 1/16/2021. We have 1 name that's been submitted for consideration, Ms. Audrey M. Gibbons. What's your will and pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve Ms. Audrey M. Givens as member of the tree board.
I'll second.
Is there a proper motion second to submit Ms. Audrey M. Gibbons' name for appointment to the tree board to fill the unexpired term of Ms. Joanna Lee? Further discussion, comments? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kaysen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Harvey?
Yes. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Please get in contact with Ms. Gibbons and let her know of her appointment to fill the unexpired term of Ms. Joanna Lee on the tree board.
Will do.
Thank you. We have come down to city attorney items. Item number 6, consider for approval of the recreational land use agreement between the city of Brunswick and Coastal Outreach Soccer. I got an email from Mr. Sean Williams, who told me he could not be on board for tonight. He had an emergency. So with the city attorney, it's on you.
Okay. I think this is sort of made its way around the city commission. The idea of what Mr. Williams is seeking to do and what Coastal Outreach Soccer is seeking to do at Howard Coffin Park. The agreement and the discussions that we've had with Mr. Williams, we're looking to address any immediate needs regarding funding or grants that might be available to him in trying to rehabilitate, reorient, and put in a new soccer field, a mini pitch soccer field in the southern portion of Howard Coffin Park. So tonight's agreement only deals with those types of items. There is a grant that Coastal Outreach Soccer is seeking to obtain from the Atlanta United Foundation. And there's also privately pledged donations that are going to go along with that, that Coastal Outreach Soccer is seeking to use to reorient one soccer field on the southern portion of Howard Coffin Park, rehabilitate another existing field, and then the Atlanta United grant is directly to putting in a mini pitch soccer field, which is something that's been being done sort of around the country in these types of parks. Sean, I know, wanted to be on tonight and he had an emergency. He would be the better person to explain that, but it's a smaller soccer field as best as I can understand. After meeting with Mr. Williams and then meeting with the city manager and looking through, we've made some changes to the agreement. We've matched the term of this agreement with the prior agreement that Coastal Outreach Soccer already has with the city of Brunswick, which would terminate on July 18th, 2027. You can see that under the term clause on page 1. Also, I know there's been a grander development plan by Coastal Outreach Soccer that was presented to the City Commission for a more comprehensive development of that southern portion of Howard Coffin Park. But this agreement specifically excludes any, building, parking area, anything on the original development plan that was submitted. It only addresses these 2 soccer fields and the mini pitch that are being privately funded or hopefully funded through the grant. There are conditions precedent on the contract. Of course, Coastal Outreach Soccer must obtain the grant and the privately pledged donations in order to move forward with this. And in the same sense of other agreements in the past, they're in the costs related to these projects are totally being put forth by Coastal Outreach Soccer. Coastal Outreach Soccer has the obligation to indemnify the city if anything arises out of this agreement, their use, their work on the park. They, in the same sense as any other sort of applicant or person using city property, if there's damage done, Coastal Outreach Soccer would be liable to repay that. It is not an exclusive use agreement, but because funding and consideration is flowing from Coastal Outreach Soccer, they are being allowed to come onto the property and are receiving this license agreement for the full, what would essentially be 7 years to correspondingly terminate at the same time as his previous land use agreement. I think I've gone through everything. If there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So this is almost like an amendment to the first agreement that we gave the land use, what they have now, but it just specifically stating that the fields, he has to get the money for the fields to do what need to do with the fields. Am I right?
That's correct. I did include a clause in there too that the location of the improvements, the parties must meet and discuss a final plan for how the fields will be reoriented and where the mini pitch field will be located.
Okay.
It's more similar to the 2014 agreement that we had with Coast Outreach. At that point, I think he received a grant from U.S. Soccer Foundation to install new irrigation. So it's very similar to the prior projects that Sean has completed at Howard Coffin Park.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner?
I have a question. Who specifically within the city will oversee this lease agreement and the usage of the property as to compliance and use and that sort of thing? Just
You know, Julie, that begs the question about our project manager. We've been trying to hire one for quite a while now. We haven't done that, so I really don't know. Guess Ms. McDuffie, any comments?
Well, I mean, this will fall under our parks and I guess community area. So I will look at it and make sure we have someone who puts eyes on it, and certainly under the department, probably I'm thinking the public works area, but I'll have to see what capacity they have to monitor the project closely. And if not, we will, designate someone specifically for that purpose.
I would strongly advise that, as it sounds like we would be prepared to move forward with that. I think it's important for Coastal Outreach Soccer to have a specific contact point within the city as things come up or questions they have, and certainly we need to have a designated person within the city that's putting eyes on what's going on and just making sure that the agreement is being adhered to and things are running smoothly.
Further comments?
I don't have anything further.
Okay. Okay. If there's no further comments, then I entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the recreational land use agreement between the City of Brunswick and Coastal Outreach Soccer as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, proper motion second for approval of this land use agreement between City of Brunswick and Coastal Outreach Soccer. Any questions, further questions, comments? And I have one, and I know Garrow is still not on with us right now, is we have Howard Coffin Park, we have money in Splash for improvements. Kathy, I know you probably see that too. We still have $232,000 for improvement, and I think some of that was for the track and the recreational part, I guess I can't remember what you call those exercise places there around the track. You have no idea when we're gonna start that, do you?
I don't.
Okay. Well, it would be nice if Coastal Outreach Soccer starts what they do, we'd be able to have our stuff together as well. I think that track needs some improvement. It's probably because I walk it a lot now too.
Well, we'll follow up and find out, Mayor, what the plan is and the timeline for that, and see if we can get it coincide with this.
All right. Any further questions? Comments? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cason, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Harvey?
Yes, that motion carries unanimously. Also, Madam Clerk, please get in contact with Mr. Williams, let him know that we have approved that and that he can go forth. His program is a great program for addition to our city, and we're trying our best to accommodate his program in our recreation department. So
I
thank you.
bet he's watching this feed.
I have one additional comment, if I might make it, and that is we should keep in mind that Howard Coffin Park is strategically located along a state route, which is Gloucester, and a state highway, which is Highway 17. And to the degree that there's any further grant funding that might be related to, athletics or, everything that could be offered at Howard Coffin Park, including a walking trail, dog park, whatever, that we make sure that our city staff is in tune with that.
I agree. I think we need to take a look at our dog park as well. We just have an area we can do a lot better with our dog park as well. We can do some things. So I think we will be moving forward. We'll take a look at enhancing things at Howard Coffin Park and also at dog park in that same area. Thank you, Julie. Okay. Any other comments before I move on? Okay, thanks, everybody. Item number 7, consider for approval the municipal court judge service agreement between the city of Brunswick and Judge Christopher O'Donnell. City Attorney, it's your item, sir.
Yes. If you recall, several years ago, after we completed an audit, GMA put forth an audit for the municipal court. One of the items that was included in the new regulations and requirements was the municipal court judge on a contract or service agreement. As a result, we did that and completed that in May of 2018. He was appointed to a 2-year term. Judge O'Donnell was appointed to a 2-year term. That ran until May of 2020, obviously. So this is being brought back as a new 2-year term for his service agreement. The template, the agreement that you guys see is a template by GMA that they offered up to use when we went through the audit for municipal court. Obviously I'm in municipal court quite a bit. I don't know if I should or should not vouch, but I think municipal courts run well, and I think Judge O'Donnell does a good job. And so tonight would be approving a new service agreement. It's exactly the same, except for the dates have changed as the prior 2 years.
Okay. Comments, commissioners?
Yeah, I'd like to say the judge is in charge of the municipal court pretty much by everything that we set down here. But who is responsible for the personnel evaluations and the compensation for the employees?
Well, I think the compensation for the employees come out of the city budget, but I think he is responsible for the evaluation and the personnel evaluations. The judges for his personnel.
Well, who is evaluating
the judge?
Yeah, who is in charge of the evaluations for the employees?
He is. The judge is.
The judge will do the evaluations.
Yes, sir.
Has he been doing them?
I don't know. Have we ever been doing any?
I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't know.
Maybe we could check and see if what's being done.
Yeah,
Yes,
this is Naomi. I did keep update with the evaluations, and I think they're not updated as a present.
They're not updated, so they
I don't know if the judge was aware he needed to do them. He don't have the form, so I think HR need to provide him with same.
Well, my question is, because I had the same question as Commissioner Kaysen, is if it's not in the service agreement or the job description, it needs to be.
that he would provide the evaluation. Well, they are city employees, so being city employees, then they need to have a evaluation. So, you know, if the judge don't evaluate, someone has to.
If they're working in the court, I would say that he is the place they should be done.
Yes, sir.
That's my perspective.
Yes, I agree with you.
And I would think then it's just a matter of who that evaluation is turned into, which should probably be the city manager.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If you, Mr. Mayor, I'm looking here in the contract agreement, and it says that the clerk of court, the court clerk shall be appointed by the city commission and shall serve at will as an at-will employee.
And it does say that they're subject to the judge's direction and control in performing duties of the court, but that the salaries, benefits, hours of work, and working conditions shall be established by the city. So it's likely, you know, that because it goes on to say that the judge understands that the court staff adhere to the same applicable personnel policies as other city employees. So if human resources conducts standard performance evaluations on, you know, all other city employees, then the city municipal court staff would be subject to those performance evaluations. He directs staff as it would relate to everything that's going on in the court. I mean, I think that I'm not sure the entire ins and outs of how an employee's performance evaluation would go, but typically, it would be, you know, the department head would conduct them and then submit them to HR. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct. That's correct, Brian.
So it's likely to follow that since they are subject to the personnel policy requiring evaluations, that the judge as the department head would conduct those and then submit the same to the human resources department. And if that, again, I don't know if he's aware that that's a requirement. I don't know if it's ever been brought up, but I'd be happy to, you know, discuss that.
Well, if you read down a little further, it says the judge will confer with the city manager to coordinate administrative activities concerning the city procedure policy and the budget in an effort to retain and ensure consistent and common practices throughout the city. So it sounds like to me that, you know, I don't know if the judge knew that he's supposed to do evaluations or if that's in his scope of work.
Well, we can direct him to do that, I believe, and I'm pretty sure he would do that. Being he's the supervisor, director over the personnel. That's a common duty that a supervisor has. Now, or either we can have it put in his contract, they would do it. I don't think the judge would fight us against not being able to evaluate his personnel.
So he has the ability to hire and fire his personnel.
No, they belong to, he has recommendations. These are really
They're
city
appointed by
employees.
the city commission.
Correct.
So,
Appointed by the city commission.
yeah.
Is that in the charter? Because that's
What?
not the charter, municipal court clerk. Only three is appointed by the commission is attorney, clerk, and city manager.
Yeah. So these people
So
are,
that's not correct.
okay.
Well, and maybe that needs to be amended to be appointed by the city manager, or I guess in conference with the judge, possibly, or just appointed by the city manager through a normal personnel process.
Are we talking about evaluation? Or are we talking
No, I'm talking about the appointment. What she said was that it's not in the charter that the city commission appoints the court clerk. So if it's not in the charter, then you are not,
Right.
you know, you all don't appoint. So
Right.
what I was suggesting is that the appointment be made by the city manager, but the evaluation is just like a department head. I would appoint a department head. But the evaluation could be done by the judge. And any appointment may be done in conference with the judge.
Sure. I agree.
I don't think he would have a problem with that. Should we talk to him before we go further with this thing? And be sure that it is the way it needs to be.
So we need to amend what paragraph, Brian? Are we talking about paragraph, item number 3?
I would
It
think
would
so.
be, yes, at the very middle of item number 3. I'm looking back through the GMA guidelines because they have set forth specific regulations as to why they would want certain things to be done. One of them is, although the city clerk is a city employee, you want municipal court to be as autonomous as it can be.
That's true. We should.
Outside of what the regular city procedures would be. So let me take a look if that's all right, and I think maybe we could. I think I could address the language so that it's a little bit clearer, and maybe I think it was a good suggestion by the city manager that do it, coordinated effort to name the city clerk by the city manager and, with consultation of the municipal court judge, something along those lines. I think would be appropriate.
Okay. So I guess we need to defer this for.
I'll make a motion, we defer this item.
Second.
Okay, the motion, a second to defer item number 7, approval of the municipal court judge service agreement between the city of Brunswick and Judge O'Donnell. Any further discussion? Are we going to defer it until a date certain, or are we just going to leave it until you be able to get it?
It needs to be done at the next meeting because his contract is already expired.
That's
correct.
This motion, that's good.
Okay, so June 17, 2020?
That's good.
Yep. And that's our first date for municipal court to be back. That's our first new trial. So I think it's just gonna have to be that the understanding that he's fulfilling the term until otherwise appointed.
Yeah, I think something should be in there.
Yeah.
He serves until he is replaced, I believe it says. Okay, then probably motion second. Okay, any further discussion?
I would just say that while we're doing it, we probably ought to check the evaluations and see just exactly where they stand.
Okay.
Yes, we will do that.
Mrs. City Manager, will you make sure of that?
Yes.
Check the evaluation. Okay. Any further discussion? Comments? Madam Clerk, call it.
Commissioner Kason, how you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Harvey?
Yes. That motion carries unanimously to defer this item to our June 17, 2020 meeting, which is our next meeting. Okay. All right. Now we have come to item 7A. And 7A is to discuss or approve the draft of a mutual aid agreement between the city of Brunswick, Glenn County, and the Glenn County Sheriff Department. I believe our city manager will be presenting that. No, excuse me, our city attorney, excuse me.
Yes, I'd be happy to present. This, I know it was just recently sent out. The time was somewhat of the essence as a result of sort of the recent events that are going on in our city and around the country, really. But the chief of police, after talking with the other heads of the law enforcement agencies in the county, asked that we look into putting together a mutual aid agreement that would essentially benefit all 3 law enforcement agencies, the county, the City of Brunswick Police Department, and Glenn County Police Department. Pursuant to Georgia law, 2 governing agencies can come together and enter into a mutual aid agreement. We've seen it in the past with other, we had one really recently for investigative services, of course had a prior one for GBNet, but what this one specifically deals with is more along the lines of a general law enforcement services when there is a local emergency or circumstances that would otherwise require a joint effort through the local law enforcement agencies. So what this is doing is providing the ability of either the chief of the county or the chief of the city police departments to go to one another or to the sheriff of Glenn County and ask for mutual aid when there's essentially deemed a local emergency or a circumstance would otherwise, require it. We don't have anything presently in place that governs this necessarily. So I think that they wanted something a little bit more formalized. So in moving through it, if you look at page 2, sets forth the purpose, of course, that it's a reciprocal contract. Any party can be requested by another party to provide mutual aid. Definitions defines a local emergency pursuant to the state mutual aid code. The initiation of mutual aid at the bottom of page 2 sets forth how that can take place, whether it be the city asking or the county asking. It also includes a clause that in the event that maybe the agency that's being requested of is also sort of spread too thin and is trying to handle the local emergency as best as they can, mutual aid can be deemed declined or that it's just not something that we can handle at the moment. Liability places the liability on whichever parties, so whichever you are employed by, that is going to be the agency that takes on the liability. When a city request goes in for county aid, the county police officers would not be deemed a City of Brunswick police officer for that time. It would be more that it's a temporary process that allows the county to come in and assist in law enforcement services. Moving down further, compensation sets forth that no party under this agreement will be required to pay any compensation to the other party under this agreement for services rendered, except there's a paragraph 2.3. There's 2.3's apology. There's a typo at the bottom of page 3, but 2.3 says that all damages or repairs to any equipment or apparatus shall be the responsibility of the party that owns such equipment. So if you request mutual aid and you offer up cars to be used, if the city requested mutual aid and offered city cars to be used by county employees, if they were damaged in the course of that mutual aid, the city would bear the responsibility for those damages.
Brian, is this agreement similar to the fire department agreement?
The joint public safety agreement?
No, for the mutual aid for the county and city fire departments.
I don't recall if it is. This one is specific to law enforcement, so I'm not sure. I'd have to look. I'd have to take a look at that. I'm not sure.
So
again,
to piggyback on Commissioner Williams' question, so why wouldn't it be? Is this not somewhat of the same type of situation?
Oh, I mean, I would think it is. I don't recall the fire department mutual aid agreement coming before us. Maybe I'm.
That's why I was puzzled, because I know the fire department has a mutual aid agreement with the city and the county, but it never came before us for any type of So I was wondering why this one would be different.
I'm not aware of the fire department mutual aid agreement, to be honest. I don't recall seeing it myself.
Check with your fire chief.
Okay, I will absolutely do that. I know we have obviously a joint public safety committee, but I don't think that's what you're referencing. Is that correct?
No, that's not what I'm referencing.
Okay. All right, I will look into it and see. So I honestly don't recall. I don't recall putting one together if there is one out there. That might be something they independently entered into, but I'll take a look and find out. I wouldn't think it'd be much different than the two, to to touch on what Commissioner Harris just said, I would expect that they be very similar in nature. That if there's an emergent situation, that you're able to call upon sort of your adjacent jurisdiction's help. But I'll get to the bottom of that after tonight. I'll shoot Chief Mowgli an email in the morning.
Okay. Are you finished with your presentation?
I think that, where was I? I'm sorry. Oh, privileges, immunities, exemptions, and benefits. Basically, what that states is that, you know, everybody is entitled to their privileges, the immunities, the benefits that are provided by their own local agency. So regardless of who's asking for aid, the county officers are still covered by the county's workers' compensation plan. And similarly, if the city was called to aid the county, our benefits would cover our city employees. The command structure basically states that if the city of Brunswick was to request mutual aid, the chief of police is their contact point. So as those county officers come into the city to help and offer the mutual aid, their chief would be the chief of police for that time. So his direction is what they should be following, and it would be vice versa.
That sounds kind of strange. If the county requests for our officers to come to their aid, wouldn't it be feasible that the Glenn County Police Chief would be able to direct our officers in where he needed them?
That's what he said.
The intent, yes.
That's what he said.
Oh, I thought he said just the exact opposite, that they wouldn't.
No.
Yeah, I know what he meant.
Right. That is correct. So as soon as they sort of step foot into the other jurisdiction's realm, the chief of that jurisdiction would be directing everyone. So if the city asks for mutual aid and the county officers are supplied, once those county officers begin their course of duty offering the mutual aid, the city's chief is directing them how to operate and where to go, all that good stuff.
Okay. That clears it.
The term of the agreement, so as soon as it's signed, it will go to December 31st of each year. It'll be annually renewed on January 1st, and each year thereafter. We have a termination of 90 days written notice. This is obviously two public agencies entering an agreement, so it's bound by a 50-year term. So it could roll and renew in perpetuity for 50 years, and then it would ultimately cease.
Okay, comments? I think in light of what's been happening in our community and the tense atmosphere that we have, that's one reason why we're seeking this mutual aid agreement. Although I know basically they are coming to the aid of each other anyhow, but something needs to be formally adopted by all three organizations, really. All three government agencies. So that's one of the reasons why it's being presented. And it's being presented irrespective of trying to get back with the GBNet. That's something that we have to look at that a little closer, and that will come back if we need be at a much later date. I think Glenn County Police is going through some issues right now, and they will have to straighten them out. And I believe they will. Any further comments?
I have sent this to the county attorney's office, and I hope that and I've asked that it be taken up as soon as possible. I have not heard back at the moment.
Well, I would like to have this move forward, bearing any minor corrections that our city attorney needs to do with it, so we can get this on signed and moving forward. I know the county may have some as well. They may have some issues as well. So we can make sure that we come together and get it straightened out.
I'll make a motion, we approve the mutual aid agreement.
It's been properly motion second for the approval of the mutual aid agreement. Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one question. Brian, this does not, and I know we didn't say, you know, the Georgia State Patrol or any other agency like that, or, you know, if necessary, any neighboring agency.
No, it wouldn't. And I honestly, until you said something, I didn't even think about State Patrol, but it only incorporates city, county, and the sheriff's department.
What I've read, they've already been allocated. I heard the governor had done that. Mayor, you probably heard that also.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Williams, your question been answered?
I think I just was sort of contemplating Commissioner Williams' question. I think to be able to, and after Commissioner Cason's comment, to include that agency, or I think you'd have to go to the state and have state approval. So I think a mutual aid agreement would probably be more likely to include like the local law enforcement agencies, even though State Patrol is here and has a post. I think we would have to include,
right,
you know, going all the way up to the state government.
Well, actually, you know, the state has jurisdiction, and generally they come into counties and cities anyway. So I don't know if you necessarily, they may operate differently, you know, but they can provide assistance as needed. They may not go underneath the umbrella, but they, you know, can provide assistance.
Okay, that answers my question. I'm clear on that.
Okay, any further comments? We had a motion and we had a second. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Cason, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Harvey?
Yes, that motion carries unanimously. Mr. City Clerk, excuse me, City Attorney, please get with the county and hopefully we could be on board with their meeting tomorrow so we can get this pushed through and just let us know if there are any minor corrections that need to be made before I sign, okay?
I will.
And I did confer with the county manager on it, so he's aware that we want it as well for tomorrow.
Thank you. All right. Now we're down to item number 8, which is city manager's item. She's gonna give us an overview of the proposed fiscal year 2020/2021 budget.
And as promised, I will be, you know, no longer than 2 hours. Okay, let's start. And I'm going to try and share my screen here. So bear with me on sharing screens for the, I got to get to the right. Okay. Let me start out by saying, you know, I came in at the kind of midpoint of this budget preparation, and we're still working very hard to get a good solid budget in place for this year. The screen that you're seeing now gives you some, I guess, background, and the reason I wanted you all to see this is because it's going to be such a different change from last year's budget to this year's budget. As you can see, in 2017, the budget was around $15.6 million. In 2018, it was around $16.6 million. In 2019, and these are unaudited figures, so these numbers are, you know, close to correct, but they may not be specifically what's reported in the audit. But last year's budget was $23 million and $23.5 million. So the reason I showed you the previous year budgets is just so you know that last year's budget was sort of an anomaly because of some of the items that were in it, and I'll point those out. But this year's budget, and based on what we're projecting, and I always like to present the budget as what the annual generation of revenue is and the annual expectation for expense. So our annual generation of revenue is looking at $14.8 million. The annual expense for the budget being proposed is $15.6 million, and we're proposing to balance the budget with the $750,000 appropriation from fund balance. And I'll go over that a little bit more in a minute too. But basically the revenues that we plan to generate, and as you can see, this is substantially lower than what was in the past, and there are some reasons for that. Okay, let me find my next screen. Let's see. Okay, this is the revenue that's being proposed, and as you can see, we're proposing, and I'm going to go just briefly through the revenue and not much through the expense, just kind of give you an overview of what our thoughts were in developing the budget items. So the revenue, we had some changes, and as the mayor had talked about earlier, as you can see, I have highlighted the motor vehicle tax and the motor vehicle title ad valorem tax. Those two items last year was a combined $850,000. This year, the proposed budget has approximately $250,000 of projected revenue for those two line items. So that's a $600,000 decrease based on that change in state law. So that's one of the reasons our budget is lower substantially this year. Of course, I stated that the property tax are pretty consistent. This $4.3 million is consistent with what we think will come in for next year. And just moving on down, most of the revenues are pretty much the same. The decreases in overall taxes is going to be about a 5% decrease. And that's in the property tax, motor vehicle, and all of those. The sales tax, of course, because of COVID and because of going forward, we're projecting a 6.4% decrease in sales tax, and that's about $1 million less than what was in 2019. But the budget for this year is 5.9, but last year it was about 6.5 that we collected. So even though it looks like a smaller decrease from the budget of last year, it's a large decrease from the actual taxes collected. But again, that's due to the COVID. We don't know what that revenue would generate, but we're being somewhat conservative and hopeful that, you know, the economy will recover quicker than we're expecting. And if it does, then we won't have to use the appropriated fund balance that I mentioned earlier. Just looking at this line item, the insurance premium tax, of course, it's probably going to generate a little more, so it's about a 9% increase in those business taxes. We're going to go on down. Of course, interest earned on our money, we projected that pretty low, so that's going to be a 40% decrease that we have projected there. And this was the line item I was talking about for last year's budget. And again, I can't explain it, but there was $2.4 million of fund balance appropriated to balance the budget. Fortunately, based on the revenues and based on the expenditures, the city won't use that $2.4 million. There were some things put in the budget that were not done. And basically the revenues hopefully are going to exceed the expenditures for this year. So that $2.4 million won't be used. But we are proposing to appropriate $750,000 out of the $6.6 million of fund balance that we have. And that's about, I guess, about a 3-4% appropriation of that fund. Again, the reason that our budget last year was $23.5 million was because of that $2.4 million of fund balance. And then we had $600,000 of property revenue from the sale of property, and that $5 million of long-term debt that was put in. So if you add those three items up, that's about $8 million, which is the $8 million difference between the 23.5 and the 15.6 that we're projecting. So it looks like we're decreasing our budget by 34%, but in actuality, it's not, you know, actually that much. Is there any questions about the revenues? Okay, well, we will move right into, and I'm just, like I said, I'm going to briefly talk about, let me see if I can find, that's not it. I have a spreadsheet that I'm trying to, okay, this one right here. This one is by organization. And of course, all of this information will be sent to you all. So you will have a chance to delve in and look at all of the numbers. So when you get this document, this is by organization report, and it gives what the budget is for each. And you will have the line item budget as well, but this is kind of just an overview that shows each department. And it's, I hate this area over here because it's kind of convoluted. This one is like city commission and it, city clerk, city manager. So you can see the different budgets and what, you know, is budgeted for each particular area. Now, most areas show a decrease because we projected the budget and we cut a lot of the machinery and equipment that was requested from the budget. In addition to, we cut the machinery and equipment for this year as it's compared to last year. Last year, there was about $800,000 of machinery and equipment items, including vehicles, in the budget. This year, it's about $450,000 of machinery and equipment and vehicles. And again, if the revenues start to look up, then we certainly will look back at some critical items that are needed and make sure we, you know, put those back in the budget if we have an opportunity. The other thing that's not in the budget is a 3% increase for the salaries. That would cost us about $250,000. So we did not put that in just because we were having, you know, a difficult time balancing the revenues and expenditures. Also, the reason that we didn't put it in is because we're right in the middle of our pay and compensation study as well. So we wanted to take the opportunity to see if we can phase in the implementation of that instead of starting with the 3% and then trying to phase in that. So, am I still?
Yes.
Okay, because my thing said I was muted, but anyway. Okay, so that's kind of, and we cut travel in the budget as well. That was one of the line items. We cut every budget, travel budget. So the commissioner's travel budget is cut, the city manager's travel budget is cut, and every other travel budget is cut. But again, you know, if there's some critical needs in those areas, we certainly will try and support that going forward. The only other thing I think, and I just wanted to note that last year there was $100,000 for demolition in the budget, and we cut that to $50,000. Again, certain things we will look at, and also any appropriation to an outside agency such as the Golden Isles Association or the Downtown Development. Those budgets were cut by 5% as well. My philosophy is always, if I have to cut into my department's budgets, then I need to cut into the outside agency's funding as well. So we cut their budget by 5%, and you may hear something from those agencies, but you know, we did what we thought we could to hold up and maintain funding, but we felt like those cuts were fair. Okay, let's go to another screen. This screen, and you can go in and look again, I just highlighted the property taxes, sales taxes, and some of the other items that are highlighted for the revenues. The expenditures on this particular report is a classification, and it basically shows you what we budgeted based on the classification, such as salaries, benefits, purchase properties, and that kind of thing. The salary shows a decrease because we put in an attrition factor for some of the budgets, some of the larger budgets, basically just not, we are funding all of the authorized positions, but we're putting in a factor based on them filling all of the positions that they have. So we will monitor, and right now we're under a hiring freeze other than public safety anyway. So we will monitor throughout the year the hiring so that we won't go over budget in any given area. The benefits we put in is to support the health insurance, and we also put in what was required on the pension. Let's see. Again, I don't think there's any other items. As you can see, like I said, the machinery and equipment, 775. We're budgeting approximately 453,000. Of course, supplies, we left that close to what it was last year. And most of the other items, this intergovernmental right here is probably where the expense was for that sale of property. So that's basically why that's down. So it's nothing to do with city departments and their operations in that reduction. Same thing in this item here. Okay. I believe that is all of the information. And again, we will make sure you all have all of these reports, including the line item proposed budget. And we may even provide some additional summary documents. I need to talk to Kathy about preparing some additional summary documents that we may present as well. We'll also send you a copy of the budgets for all of the other funds that are, budgeted, and you can look at those as well. Are there any questions?
How are you gonna send those to us?
I beg your pardon?
When are you gonna get those reports to us, so this budget, so we can take a look at it?
I will get those. Kathy could probably send them out, if not this evening, first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And I apologize, we pretty much have just gotten everything, where we were balanced and looking at it and making sure at this point. And there'll still be some tweaking, of course, to the budget as we go along with the process of the work sessions for reviews. And if you all, want to have specific departments come in to speak on the budget, please let me know so that we can schedule those in on the work sessions.
Okay.
I've got a suggestion. As we're going through this thing, we've got the page numbers on the worksheet that you've given us. If you could put a revision date every time those pages change, it would really help a lot.
Okay.
A date perhaps, and a revision 1, 2, 3, 4, and be easy to keep up with them that way.
Okay, that would be fine.
Thank you.
Well, on the report that was provided, it does say at the bottom left of every page who ran the report, what day and what time. So that's great. And the page numbers are always very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, on some of them, we'll make sure we can, hopefully that they'll have that information going forward.
Yeah, just a revision 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would really be helpful. The date is great, no question about it.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and not feeling like you had to go through every single page.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Because we have had this, and we have had an opportunity to look through it, and I appreciate the efforts, not only on your part, Ms. McDuffie, coming in so quickly during this process, but getting with all the department heads and starting to work through this process is great for us to see. And we do have some challenging times ahead of us, as we've already been through some, and we just got to make it work.
Well, I'd like to thank Tanette and especially Kathy. Kathy has been just tremendously responsive, and I know I have been pushing her through this process really hard to submit reports and give me information and make changes. So she's just really, I'm pretty sure she's screaming somewhere, but she wasn't screaming back at me, so I'm thankful.
I
want to echo what Commissioner Martin said as well, because I know this has been a major undertaking to come in at the point that you came in, but you have grabbed the bull by the horns, and I think we have a more realistic picture of what we look like financially. So going forward, as we move forward to look for, different projects and different areas that we can try to improve in, then I think we can, kind of have a more focused approach to things that we're going to be doing and things that we pursue. Just a question on like the police department. I know we're looking at salaries and stuff, but we had some unfilled positions, but those positions are still currently funded. I'm understanding. Am I understanding correctly?
Well, basically, and this is what we tried to apply, like I said, an attrition factor. So what we did was we left all the authorized positions in, and we just made an adjustment based on them, the practice of, they're not going to fill all their positions all at once at the beginning of the fiscal year. So throughout the year, they may fill the positions, and even by the end of the year, if we're fortunate, they may have all of their positions filled, but it'll be systematic so that money that we took out for attrition will be covered by the time frame in which the positions are filled. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And all of the other staff personnel that contributed. Thank you all so much for working so hard.
I know we're going to get into this a lot more, but Regina, do you have the worksheet that you've given us in the book on page 5?
I'm trying to see which page.
You can probably answer this without looking at the page. It's
Okay.
got sale of equipment on there, and it says that you're going to sell equipment for $65,000. What do you anticipate selling?
Well, that was a line item, and yes, there's a lot of equipment. When I visited the Public Works Department, they have a lot of cars, they have a lot of equipment.
You're right.
When I was in Macon County, we worked really closely with the Gov Deals program.
Right.
And we were, over the last 3 years, able to generate over $160,000 from just selling some of the stuff that we had.
That's great.
And it's been a
while since we've had a surplus sale, and that's great.
Well, and it's actually an online sale.
Yeah.
And basically, once the equipment is declared surplus, it'll go online, and it's amazing how quickly people will pick up things.
Yeah, we've used Gov Deals plenty. We just haven't been doing any surplus sales. And you've also got a building out at the cemetery out there you ought to take a look at too.
But that's my anticipation, and I'm going to push because I always want to make budget revenue. And the mayor had asked about, the loss of revenues and what we were planning. We will be looking at, some trying to develop some new revenue streams, but we're also looking at making sure that we're collecting all of the money that's owed to us in municipal court, in sanitation, and in any other area where we're collecting money. We will be looking hard on, how we can better do collections in each of those areas.
That's great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say to Ms. McDuffie and the entire staff that I certainly appreciate them being able to come. I think this was the first time that the Finance Committee got to see the proposed budget prior to it becoming before the full commission. And I think they've done an excellent job, and I think that we're ready and we're poised to do great things in the city of Brunswick.
Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I'm really very appreciative. Ms. McDuffie and Ms. Myers and Kathy, and thank you so much for putting it together for us. Realizing that as we come before bringing it for the full commission, there will be, like you said, some tweaks here and there as we go through it. Since we have our books, we can go through a line by line ourselves and find those little things that we want you to have questions about, or maybe tweak those as well. So I can think of a couple of myself as is, but I won't indulge you tonight. So anybody else have any comments on the overview of our budget? It's a tight budget, and you know, I think we can live with it, we can adhere to it. Again, we thank you all. We thank the finance committee and also our city manager, assistant city manager, and finance director for putting it together for us.
Thank you.
All right, no further comments on that? Okay. We've come to the end of our regular printed agenda. And before I go ask for any, well, I'll ask, is there any need for executive session?
I don't have any need for it.
Wow. Amen.
Is that
Okay.
a good wow? Bad wow.
Amen.
We should have had the song Celebration Time come.
Before I ask for a closure, I want to give anyone authorization to say a couple of things concerning what's happening in our community. Well, excuse me, I take that back. We have Matthew Hill on our online with us, and he needs to, if people will indulge me, to let us know about fireworks. I imagine we haven't said anything about fireworks. It should have been on our agenda, but it wasn't. For the 4th of July fireworks, and also about First Friday coming up. So Matthew Hill, can you want to give us a little small briefing about that?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners and Mayor, the DEA board had a special called meeting last week, and the mayor attended, as did Ms. McDuffie and Ms. Myers, to talk about the 4th of July fireworks, to provide a recommendation to you, the commission. And I think last week I had sent you the 7 or 8 options that they discussed. Just to make it brief, they commission, or the DDA board suggests that the fireworks be postponed to Labor Day weekend, but not on Labor Day, on Sunday, September the 6th. Part of the reason was the COVID-19 pandemic, and we don't know what the shelter at home regulations are going to do going forward. But also because we're the remaining fireworks on the coast, there was concern about just the sheer volume of people that might be interested in seeing that. And that was one of the reasons they felt that to recommend that it be delayed until July or Labor Day.
Okay. Now that is something that needs to come before the city commission as far to defer. I imagine we can do that in our next meeting as well. Naomi, you got something to say?
Oh no, y'all just need to announce that y'all are okay with it. It doesn't have to be voted on.
Okay.
So we can do the announcement in the paper tomorrow.
Okay, so it's a recommendation by DDA. The fireworks program or display, it belongs to the city of Brunswick, but DDA manage it for us as well. So they give us a recommendation, and then we decide as to what we want to do. That's how that goes. So we have a recommendation from the DDA to defer until Labor Day, and if not Labor Day, then New Year's Eve, I think it is.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, just put my little 2 cent worth in.
Yes.
If that's what the DDA is recommending and they think that's going to be in the best interest of public safety, let's move forward with their plan. And if it comes that we can't do it at Labor Day, then, we'll just move forward how we need to.
Okay. Anyone else got something to say?
Is this just for the fireworks, or are we going to do the regular 4th of July, Matthew?
No, there would be no program at the park on July 4th. We probably will figure out some way to have a contest or something online for people to pick up the watermelon rather than you know, normally we hand out slices. We just let people come and pick up a watermelon on Friday the 3rd, but there wouldn't be any games or anything like that at the park. We would have activities at the park on Labor Day weekend. That was one of the reasons they thought Sunday would be better than Monday, because we already have a Rhythm on the River concert scheduled for Sunday, and that's beginning at 6. Then the fireworks could happen after the concert. And we are looking at food trucks and other vendors at the park for Labor Day.
Right. I'm all for it.
Well, Julie and I sat in their meeting as well, so and we tend to agree with the proposal that's been proposed by DDA. Commissioner Harris, you have anything?
No, I'm good with that. I just want to hear what the consensus is on First Friday.
Okay, well, all right. So we're gonna defer or transfer. We're gonna delay 4th of July, push that until 4th of July, until Labor Day, excuse me, and then we will see how well that goes. So Matthew, tell us a little bit about First Friday now.
As you know, we had made some changes to First Friday because of the COVID crisis to allow people to maintain appropriate distances. We were going to close the Newcastle Street and Gloucester Street for the event, greatly reduce the number of nonprofits that are there so that we can keep sidewalks clear. But we have some other events coming up this week that we've been watching very closely. The police chief and I talked this afternoon. I met yesterday with the police chief, Captain Smith, and the mayor, Miss Regina. I'm sorry, Regina. Your last name just left my head. And Miss Myers. And Chief Jones suggested yesterday that there wasn't any real intelligence coming from the FBI or the GBI that would warrant not having First Friday. He said today when I talked to him that the status was pretty much the same as yesterday. I am keeping in touch with him. So, you know, if something happens, we can cancel it. But I did poll the merchants also. I had 16 reply with some strong feeling one way or the other. 14 said that we should go ahead and have it. 2 said that it should be canceled for this month. So right now we're proceeding with it, and Chief Jones believes we will have an update at noon tomorrow when we'll have a better idea of what's coming along.
Well, there's some strong feelings from the city commission about that too as well, because we have to look out for our whole entire city. While the chief may not be getting some intel, whatever, we all seem to have intel. There's some of these things is happening, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask each commissioner if they want to speak about what's going on in the community. But right now, as we deal with the First Friday, Commissioner, you have any comments?
No, just that we're not overreactive based on hearsay and rumor, but that we're accurate with the information and verifying what we're hearing and what we have knowledge of, and that we don't overreact. I think as a community, our faith, especially our faith-based portion of the community, which I think is very pervasive, thankfully, we've tried to join together in praying, in talking about the situation, in finding commonality, in wanting to make change and be effective. It's a lot of outsiders that want to stir things up, and it's unfortunate. I think as Commissioner Harris has said over and over, and several of y'all have, it's unfortunate that the perception and the information that the outside community has either received or thought they knew was not accurate as far as the jurisdictional lines between the involvement of the city and the county with Ahmaud Arbery. So it's a tough time in our country, but I feel that I'm proud of our community, and I think that we want to hold strong, and we want to hold together.
Okay. Any comments on First Friday?
I think, you know, to the degree that we want to have a First Friday, we should. If there are those that for whatever reason feel we shouldn't, then they should feel comfortable doing what they feel is right for either their business or their own personal interest.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Anyone else comment?
I'll go with whatever the majority wants to do. I'm always gonna err on the side of caution. But I respect the business proprietors' wishes. My concern is not for our local community, but for those that will come and that are geared up to come. People that's coming in to cause trouble, the FBI ain't gonna so much know everybody that's gonna come in. Now, I understand the chief is getting some information. I have FBI contact information as well that says that these people are coming. And those that don't have the best interest of the city of Brunswick or Glenn County at heart will be here. My main concern is if we're saying we're going to do this, everybody has the understanding, that's including all the proprietors, what the risks are that's going to be involved in this, that they are also prepared, and that we are prepared. When these people come in from the outside, and it has been proven, they do not understand or even care about the jurisdictional boundaries between the city and the county. So for them, a police station is a police station. Doesn't matter if it's the city or if it's the county. A police car is a police car. Doesn't matter if it's the city or the county. So we must be prepared for everything that's come in. My able to sit in on a meeting with the state NAACP president as well as with the governor. And so the governor has assured and says that he's going to dispatch all those that need to be dispatched to this area. So I'll go with whatever the majority says, but I want it to be known that I am concerned.
Thank you. Commissioner Kaysen, like to say something?
I'll just say certainly we're all concerned and we're hoping for the best here and praying for the best. And I think as much as possible, we should carry on in our normal lives as much as we can. We've been affected by a stay-at-home medical situation, and I think we just need to be mindful of what could happen, and but carry on as best that we can. So I'm willing to go along with First Friday. I know a lot of people are ready for it, and you know, I guess I don't have any upfront or any information from anybody on the outside at all. Nothing's been being shared with me. But you know, if we hear of something between now and Friday, and we're alerted to something, you know, that somebody else knows about, then I think we need to be prepared to take that as fair warning also. So we got a lot on our plate, and a lot of information needs to be shared, it sounds to me like. But I think we carry on the best we can, and we share all the information we can, and certainly Matthew and Regina at the top of this food chain, and the way I look at it, to getting the information out to us. So that's the best I can do with where I am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Williams?
Well, I'm of the opinion that, you know, we definitely need to err on the side of caution, be alert, be prepared. You know, you can't wait till the house is burnt down to call the fire department. So, you know, that's why we have smoke detectors, and we, you know, so if we know something, say something. If somebody's giving us information that will help our police department to be prepared, and other services that we have to be prepared. But yet, like Commissioner Kaysen said, I think that we ought to, as much as possible, go on with life, you know, and do the things that we're accustomed to doing. I know First Friday is a big boost and a stimulus to a lot of the downtown merchants, and they've been missing that. So for the past 2 or 3 months, so I know they're excited and want to get back to it. But I say to them, and I say to all of us, you know, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what's going on, and just kind of, you know, enjoy yourself, but be aware.
Thank you, sir. My comment about that is, as I sat in the meeting with Matthew Hill and the chief and Ms. McDuffie and Ms. Myers.
Excuse me, I did not mean to leave the chief out of that. He certainly should be right there in that command post, without a doubt.
Yes, sir. We understood the fact that some factions may be coming to our city, and one thing we talked about were that if we have people on the street, the likelihood of something happening may be nil, because he said people who want to commit a crime, they don't like to be have other folks around. However, we also said too that you know, if we have stores boarded up, you know, that's going to give them reason to try to want to do something, or not even many people on the street. But in the rest of the meeting, we talked about that we should be able to make a decision early tomorrow or tomorrow evening as to what we want to do for First Friday. That's give them enough time to say it's canceled, enough time to put it out on the airways that will cancel. Depending on tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a very tense day for us, since we know that the preliminary hearing, the bond hearing, would be tomorrow morning at 9:30. There are a number of protests being that people say they're going to do. There are gatherings, and there also is a march, I think around 4:30 tomorrow evening as well. The issue with me is that you know, they're not going to march around the courthouse. They're going to march somewhere in Brunswick. So I need to have, we need to be aware and also be prepared for things in case things get out of hand. We're not looking for things to get out of hand. We just want to make sure that we're able to deal with things that do. I think Chief has a plan, a good plan. I think all the law enforcement agencies here have a good plan too, for what they think will happen or will not happen. I'm glad that we are, like Commissioner Harris said, err on the side of caution. Safety is our paramount, and what we're trying to do for our citizens. Another thing too is it's been said in our community that no one has stepped up and taken responsibility for the things how things have gone bad and how things have gone sideways, and how our processes have seemed to be not being adhered to, or it just seemed like this situation may have gotten swept away. So no one would step forward. I know I don't want to put my county commissioner on point, but I'll just say this: they are blaming the city of Brunswick anyhow, and they are blaming the mayor for not doing something. As a matter of fact, they are asking me I need to enact hate hate laws and all the other things, and not knowing that it's something that we cannot do, but the state of Georgia can. So with all that, I'll say, even if, and I know the city commission, I know you stand with me, we take responsibility for what we can do. We take ownership of what we can do. And when we say if there's something was wrong, then we will say it was wrong and we will fix it. I know that you guys stand with me and stand strong with me. We stand strong with this community that if no one else would take responsibility, we take responsibility of saying something was wrong happened, and we will try our best to make sure a change will come. I understand that it's more than just one government here. However, somebody got to stand tall with it. I implore you all, the citizens of Brunswick, to understand that we want the safety of all the residents in the city of Brunswick, and also in our whole community. And that's why we will take responsibility to ensure that something will get done, and that we will make sure that a change will come. And this senseless shooting would not just be something that just happened and nothing will be done about it. So please, thank you for indulging me for my little soapbox that I've been standing on for a minute. And if there's anyone else have anything else to say.
I got one other thing I want to say is that y'all had the chief of police involved with the command in the meeting that you were in. I also would suggest that we have our other chief, the fire chief, be involved also.
Yes.
If he wasn't, I didn't hear his name, but
no, he was not there. There was no fire chief involved at all. It was all only law enforcement at the time.
I think we need to be prepared, and the more hands we have on deck, and the more hands and heads we have, probably the better off we are. So that would be my recommendation.
Good recommendation, Commissioner Casey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say that I totally agree with you wholeheartedly, and as a commissioner on this commission, I certainly stand with you and the entire city of Brunswick.
This is one of the greatest commissioners I ever served with. I say that all the time, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You guys are really, really awesome. Really awesome. Okay, we have come to the end of our scheduled meeting.
I'll make a motion.
A motion to what?
Adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
And then probably motion second for adjournment. Are there any further discussion? Go ahead. All in favor, let me hear you say aye.
Aye.
Thank everybody else.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we stand adjourned, everybody. Thank you so very much for a great meeting. Thank you. It's a pleasure, as always, to serve with you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Hi, Kyle.
Thank you. Good night.
Kyle, thank you, buddy.
Good night, everybody.